Hey, Stewart's Chapel, this is Don Pierson, and this is February the 14th, Monday, February the 14th, and we are continuing in this series of devotions in the presence of predators. I want to deal with the religious wolf. This will take several devotions to do so. We're back in Matthew chapter 7, verse 15. I'm going to read all the way down through verse 23. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorns, or figs, or thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your names? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness, or who practice evil. Evil. Most often we will take verses 21 and 23 and deal with separately. We'll also often take the verses about what a tree bears and deal with them separately. But this whole dialogue begins with a discussion about false prophets. It even lets us know that towards the end that they are out there prophesying in the Lord's name, but he's never known them. They're not even on the same page. They're not reading from the same book. They're not drinking from the same juice. And so this whole section is dealing with predators that come to them. Now, as we looked at in other places, especially when Paul talked about this earlier, there's some from within. Some of these religious wolves are among us. They're among us. And they will seize the moments of transitions. That's what I told you. In a transition of leadership, in a lull, when nobody's watching, they will seize those moments. Some are within us. And those that are within us, some of them are legalists and some are liberalists. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the ones who come from without, they're cultic, they're false religions, they're false prophets. Even though they are come into us, they believe that they are part of us. That's why they're coming. They're not just coming in because, hey man, I like Stewart's Chapel. No, they think that they have an affinity with us. Now the problem is it takes time to recognize these. So when they come in, they may be among the flock for some time before the shepherds of the flock realize what is among them. And by that time, they're usually deeply entrenched in people's lives. They've developed friendships or relationships. And so when it comes time to deal with the wolf, you usually end up dealing with those that they have preyed upon as well. And it's usually messy. It's messy. And Jesus is letting us know they're there. They're within us and they're from without. And they have an agenda. And their agenda is driven by the enemy. And so they come in to do their harm from without. This is not the best example of that. I will tell you that as when I was with the convention, many times when I was doing a conference, I would have a lunch or a supper with a pastor, and he would share with me how he was in the midst of this. I hadn't even talked about that with him, but as he shared, I was aware that there was a religious wolf that had come in. As a director of missions, I saw it. I've seen it as a pastor. I saw it as a missionary. I think of one example in Belize where I actually picked up the man, took him in my car to the village. There was an opportunity for him to speak. I did not offer that opportunity. It just came. There was a lull, and he seized that opportunity. I'm going to tell you what I did. And some of those from Belize that were there, and I can think of some of the ones that were there that day, that evening, when I endured what he had to say. I wouldn't do that now. I remember as a director of missions, actually, I won't name the church. As a director of mission, I hadn't been here very long. And at a brotherhood meeting, an individual began to take this role. And I interrupted him. I seized the moment. I stopped him, called him for what he was, and dealt with it. Now, a whole bunch of pastors came to me and thanked me for doing that. But there were some that thought that I had been cruel. That's part of the danger of dealing with the religious wolves. These individuals are perfect at mimicking the sheep. They're in sheep clothing. They're excellent at deception. Once they're in, it's a lot harder to get them out. Beware of the religious wolves. Some are legalists, some are liberalists. Some talk about their freedom, and that's all about their freedom to do whatever. And the other ones are so bound up by you could go on and on and on. Now, I want to tell you something. Most Baptist churches don't have to deal with this one. Most Baptist churches deal with the legalists. But then there are these others too. They seize a verse or a phrase and they run with it to an end that is destructive. Beware of wolves that have a form of godliness but don't have the power thereof. Love you, Susan.